Ben, I want you to talk more about Texas Public Heritage and the Texas Bowl. It's the other organization you run. How your background in organizing led you to starting those organizations, and what you do in the day-to-day of that.
Sure. As a law school graduate, I can
Sorry. My mom would love you, but...
but I didn't list that in my bio because it is not really relevant to what I do day to day. Both projects really came out of a place of we aren't winning races to get power to affect the change that we need, and from any issue across the board, whether it's voting rights, whether it's immigration, whether it's women's rights, anyone's rights. And how do we create leverage? How do we create pressure on lawmakers to try to get some marginal wins or some just straight out wins? And there were a group of people that came together and said, well, one thing the right does really well is media. And so why don't we use that in the same way that they do, but use it against them? And so that was really the impetus for the Texas Public Heritage work. And as a basic straight white guy, I was like, yeah, I can figure out ways to make other straight white guys feel embarrassed and ashamed. I can do that. Cool. So, a good example of that is we took the Budweiser ad, Real Men of Genius. I don't know. Does anyone remember that? Yeah. Okay. So we just did a series of videos sort of using that concept to talk about the Texas Education Agency head, Mike Morath, who, over a year ago put together a task force to figure out why there was a teacher shortage. Well, it's like, because you don't pay them enough, Mike. You don't need to be a genius to know that. And so we did an ad, this past fall, basically highlighting that, and that had, despite a pretty small universe, it had an outsized impact because no one's ever gone after that guy before on anything, at least publicly. And so, we just figured, why don't we try this and see what happens? And so I know for a fact he saw it. Hi, Mike. I know that it didn't make him very comfortable, and so we know that incremental gains like that over time, we hope will have an impact in along with everyone else's voice. And so, like, we did an ad in January with Dan Patrick as the subject of one of those ads, and highlighted the fact that he's changed his last name and the fact that he's now changing, or he and Abbott are now changing what they call vouchers, right? So we've gone from vouchers to school choice to parental empowerment to parental rights, whatever you want to call it, it's still the same thing. And so we said, we know that like you're an expert at like polishing a turd by changing its name, but it's still the same thing, right? That was the punchline of the ad. So like this is not, I would say I'm not breaking any ground in using comedy, but sometimes the lowest common denominator stuff works. So that's sort of what my day-to-day work is really thinking of how do we take these complex issues, simplify them, and make them funny-ish. Real funny is the professionals' work, but we do well enough. And the Texas Bowl is just another angle to do that. It's another mechanism. So it's a brand that we just decided to create. And it is basically the Onion, but for Texas politics. So again, just another way to say things that are harder to say, or harder for elected officials to say, harder for sort of the institutional folks to say. We're just creating a voice and a mechanism to do that.